Wednesday Wonder. I'm wondering if you wonder or if you worry. I was Olympic champion worry type person for a very long time. I know how to worry. I don't know about you, but I used to be able to worry about not having anything to worry about. Because I would be worried that I was forgetting something. I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Sometimes I still get the kind of idea that there's a shoe hanging out there somewhere, on a limb. Pardon the pun. But do you know what? I wonder why I worry now. Because there are so many other things that we can be doing apart from worrying. We can be wondering. We can be wondering about how we are able and capable of doing things and we don't do them. We could be wondering about how we're going to preserve this moment in time as a point of launch, as a point of difference, as a point of insight and curiosity. We could be wondering about taking a wander up the road in the sunshine before it snows again. If you're in Scotland at this time of year, and particularly these days, we've been having snow for April showers. It's been fun. Not particularly for the plants, but it's been fun. Taking a walk, and instead of just tramping and saying, yeah, I'm doing this because it's good for me and because I have to, and because it's the only time I'm going to get out, that's kind of actively, angrily whining about it. And I know, because I've kind of actively, angrily whined it a little myself. But I catch on to it. And once I've caught on to it, I stop. Now, I wondered at one point if I could learn Italian. So I got myself an Audible book, and I stuck my earplugs in, and now I'm learning a little bit of Italian. And it's actually a lot like French. And Spanish, actually, because they're all based in Latin. They're Latin-based languages. So there are commonalities across the board. Now, when you have commonalities across the board, if you think about it, it makes it easier to understand what's going on. Because once you can figure out one thing that you recognise, like dominoes, you will recognise the others, and it makes things a lot easier to learn. Just how I look at things, of course. You may find it easier to do it another way, or you may not want to do it at all. I don't wonder about that because it's none of my business. And that's another thing that can stop you worrying. Stop worrying about things that aren't any of your business. Like what other people think of you. What they think of you is their business. And it's subjective because it all comes down to what their insecurities are. What their stuff is. What their wounds are. Nothing to do with you. Basically what's happening is that they're outwardly motivating their woundedness onto other people. Blame, guilt, shame, embarrassment, pain. I feel like this, so why should you feel any better? So stop wondering about what other people think of you, because basically what the most important thing is, what you think of you. And it's about time, perhaps, you started thinking about you and wonder why you're so downtrodden with yourself, so harsh with yourself, because you're so worried about what other people think. This is not the time to be that way. This is a time to nurture yourself, your soul, your heart, your being. This is a time to learn more about you, about your inner self, your oversoul, your connection to everything that's around you. Because as we become more and more isolated socially, we seek connection in other ways. And the thing is, we can do that whether you're religious or spiritual, and yes, there is a delineation between the two. Not all people are religious, but all people can be spiritual, although not all people are either. They have a different thing to understand the world, a different way. But that's okay, that's their way. Nothing to do with me or you or anybody else, it's their thing. So when you're going out for this walk and you're wondering about connection, how can you be connecting with anything when you're on the move? Oh my goodness, it's the best way. When you're driving in a car, you're actually becoming part of the car. The car becomes part of you because you're so connected to the way of driving, or hopefully you are, that it's almost automatic. You get in the car and you're there, particularly if it's a journey you know well. And there's part of you, your universal mind, that's actually dealing with all the stuff that's saying, okay, that's not right, stop here. That doesn't look good, look over there. Pay attention to this. But other than that, you're on autopilot. You're changing gears, you're braking, you're accelerating, you're dipping the clutch. You're not really thinking about it consciously. You are connected to the driving state. So, let's connect to a walking state. Let's connect to a state of going out and being grateful for the sunshine or the wind in your hair or the sharpness of the air. These bright April mornings. The chilliness that reminds you that though it's cold right now, by midday the sun will be coming out and it will be a little bit warmer. Which basically in Scotland means we'll be slightly blue instead of really, really dark blue. We'll just look slightly cyanotic. There was a time when I did joke about that with someone who was annoying me on a beach in Aise in France. And very naively I had gone down to this beach with my friend, who had been living there for a while, so she knew better, but actually she didn't. And we were at this beach and she was off doing her Esther Williams routine in the sea, and I was kind of contemplating dipping my toes in the water when this man came along. He was very tanned. He looked a bit like he could put George Hamilton in the shade as far as tanning was concerned. And he had teeth whiter than Simon Cowell's just after the treatment. Actually, I think you could see them from the moon. But anyway, he came along and I think he was very adept, excuse my adjustment, very adept at seeing people who he deemed to be vulnerable. I don't think he'd ever met many Scottish people before. Anyway, he sat down with me and I wasn't very keen at all. So immediately on guard, wee Scottish Glaswegian type person coming out to play. So he looks at me and he says, "You don't swim. Why don't you swim?" "Because I don't want to." "Oh, I think it is because you cannot swim. I am a great swimmer. I can teach you how to swim." Now, I'd had a whole conversation with him. Well, he had been talking at me for a while about how good a dancer he was and how good he was at this and how good he was at that. And I was getting very near the end of my tether with patience. But I was being polite because I was in a foreign place. And any time my friend would come out of the water, because nobody could swim that long out there and not get tired or fed up or something, surely. Ah, no. Off she went. Mermaiditis. Anyway, eventually, he says to me, and he kind of pokes my arm and he said, "You're not very tanned, are you? You're very pale." By this time, fed up, I said, "Look, where I come from, my natural colour is blue, so I'm doing quite well, thank you very much." was at that point that he tried to get me to go into the water with him. That didn't work out well at all. Not for him anyway. And I didn't go into the water. But that's another story. So when you wonder about things, and I wondered exactly what was going on with this guy and what on earth I was going to say to him to get him out of my way without actually physically knocking him out, which in those days I was quite capable of doing. I should think, given the choice and the situation, had I not changed my mind and my mindset slightly, I could possibly still do it now. We are only a choice away from such actions, which is something to remember. There is a choice. When we worry, we don't see choices. We don't see instances of ways other than the way that we're thinking. I was getting upset and I was getting the feeling of being backed into a corner, which is never good for anyone. In those days, what would happen when I was backed into a corner is I would fight my way out, either with my vocabulary or with my fists, because that was the way I was taught. And I never wondered, to begin with, if there was another way of doing it. Then I learned. So we can do different things, and we can understand that our insecurities, our ways of thinking ourselves down, is often because someone else taught us that. Someone else said something to us when we were very young and impressionable, and it stuck there. And it just waits for the right nutrients, the right conditions to show itself again, and to remind you that the other person was absolutely right. But of course, more often than not, they're absolutely wrong. The only time they're right is when they tell you that you are full of potential and that you can be a shining star. You don't have to shine at physics or ballet or acting or being an influencer on Instagram. You just have to shine to be yourself, and understanding the beauty and the power that is there within you. And I want to leave you wondering about that. And when you're having a walk, connect to that power and beauty within you, and allow yourself to shine, and just put it out there and see what comes back to you from the trees, from the birds, from the sunshine. Maybe the clouds will even part away from the sun and you'll get a little sunbeam just for you. Who knows? That's the bell telling me it's lunchtime. I wonder what's going to be for lunch. I probably know, because I'm going to make it, which is always the best way to wonder and make your dreams come true. Be well, be loved, be blessed. Wonder, don't worry. See you tomorrow.